Hello and welcome. Today we begin our show with the latest updates from the war-torn Sudan, where the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, have agreed to a humanitarian truce after fighting the Sudanese Army for more than 2 years. The announcement came days after the RSF took over the city of El-Fasher. The RSF said that the decision to accept the proposal tabled by the US, Egypt, the UAE and Saudi Arabia was in the interest of the Sudanese people. The paramilitary added that the ceasefire was needed to address the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of the war.
The Rapid Support Forces confirmed their approval of the humanitarian truce proposed by the Quad countries: the United States of America, the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the Arab Republic of Egypt. This is to ensure that the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of the war are addressed and to enhance the protection of civilians by completing the terms of the Agreement on Humanitarian Truces to allow the delivery of humanitarian aid.
Meanwhile, the military-aligned government has not yet reacted to the RSF announcement. But earlier, the Sudanese Army chief said that his forces were striving for the defeat of the enemy and to avenge the killings of people. The army has also indicated its intent to continue fighting the paramilitary forces, despite this ceasefire proposal. The remarks were made after an internal huddle earlier this week. Meanwhile, the US State Department called on both sides to finalize the truce. The details of the proposal are not out yet, but a Saudi Arabian official reportedly said that the plan outlines a 3-month humanitarian truce in all of Sudan. Then efforts will be made to bring the RSF and Army to the negotiating table in Jeddah for a permanent peace deal.
Pretty frequent communication with those Arab partners that I just mentioned, and we want to see this conflict come to a peaceful end, just as we have with so many others, but the reality is it's a very complicated situation on the ground right now.
The announcement of a temporary truce came days after horrifying reports of mass violence surfaced from El-Fasher after the RSF takeover. The city, which now reels under mass killings, looting, sexual assaults and famine, was the last stronghold of the Sudanese Army in Western Darfur. According to a report, new satellite imagery from the city showed activity consistent with mass graves. The report identified at least 2 earth disturbances at a mosque and a former children's hospital. The researchers noted that the appearance of meters-long trenches and the disappearance of objects were consistent with a cluster of bodies being buried. The report on mass graves followed the incident of the tragic killings of more than 460 patients and medical staff at the hospital in El-Fasher, with both the RSF and the Sudanese Army facing accusations of committing atrocities. The UN Human Rights Council has called an urgent session on the situation in El-Fasher next week. The battle in El-Fasher gave the RSF control over all 5 state capitals in Darfur. This triggered fears of potentially dividing Sudan into 2 parts, effectively along an east-west axis. The RSF now dominates Darfur and parts of the south, while the army controls the north, east and central regions along the Nile and Red Sea. The fight between the 2 warring sides has spread to central Kordofan region. But with the acceptance of a truce proposal, will the war that has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced millions and triggered the world's largest displacement and hunger crisis finally abate? For more on this, we have with us Saladin Nugud, the official spokesperson of TAS-IS Alliance and the Minister of Health for the Sudan Peace Government. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me in the show.
Let's first look at this RSF acceptance of a peace proposal. Do you think that this will put pressure on the Sudanese government to also agree to a deal?
Yeah, I think the acceptance of the RSF to the truce is something important. And by the way, it's not something new. Since the start of this war, always the RSF goes for the peace platforms with highly acceptance of stopping the war. That's happened in Jeddah first talk, Jeddah second talk, Al-Manama, Geneva First Talk, and Geneva Second Talk, and even the IGAD. Always who was spoiling the peace platforms and prevented peace from being there is the SAF. And this is usually because of the SAF is controlled by the Muslim Brotherhood dissolved NCP party, which was the people revolt against in December 2018. So the SAF, by initiating or erupting this war, they want to bring back Muslim Brotherhood NCP back to power, despite the will of the Sudanese people to get Muslim Brotherhood out of power. This is the main cause of that spoiling all peace platforms. And even right now in this truce, who will reject, or actually they already rejected the truce by the meeting of the Peace and Security Council that they did 2 days ago. They get out with a statement that they are going for popular uprising and popular resistance, and they ask Sudanese people to be armed against the rapid support forces that they called militia. And actually, the rapid support forces is a governmental military institution and it's part of the army. And it's even wrong to leave the name of the army since the beginning of this war to the SAF. By the way, the RSF has legislation from the Sudan parliament, and it is official governmental military institution.
Let's build on those comments. Of course, in recent times, the RSF had captured El-Fasher, the last Sudanese army stronghold. How significant is that to this acceptance from the RSF?
Okay, Joshua, by the way, right now I'm speaking to you from El-Fasher. We reached El-Fasher like 2 days ago, and there is nothing about all this in the media, fake media campaign about mass graves, about extrajudicial killing, about like what they call Tom Fletcher in the UN Security Council, ethnic cleansing. These are all fake media campaign. What's happened in Al-Fasher is a routine military operation since the war erupted in 2023, and Al-Fasher liberation took a long time. It was like 1.5 years. Why? Because the fighters in Al-Fasher were from the joint forces who were supposed to be in a neutral state, and they started the war. They were in neutral state, but actually Al-Burhan, the chairperson or the first commander of SAF, they get the joint forces and Jibril and many out of neutral state in exchange for money. That's why they started to bring Al-Fasher into a war zone. Al-Fasher was safe, was out of military operation in the beginning, but this was done by Al-Burhan and Jibril and Minni to bring Al-Fasher into a war zone. What's happened in Al-Fasher is none at all of any ethnic cleansing. There is none at all of any mass graves. We went to that hospital that you mentioned in the report. There was no killing of 460 patients at all. It was all fake media campaign and report. There was a big media campaign after Al-Fasher. It was a prepared one, and a regional and international media institution involved in this. And this was because of the high strategic security and historical importance of Al-Fasher. The capturing and liberation of Al-Fasher will open the way for a liberation of many other cities. Right now, Baba Nusa, Al-Ubayd is near to be liberated, I think maybe in the coming weeks. And this will put a high pressure, higher pressure on the SAF to accept the truce. Otherwise, all the Sudan will be liberated by RSF and Tasis forces.
Yes, just the caveat away from media, of course, there have been UN comments and comments from world leaders about the situation in El-Fasher, but as you say, you are on the ground, so thank you for that insight. As we bring an end to this discussion, I just want to look at what a peace deal could mean for the people living within the country. Of course, a clear divide now between RSF-held land and Sudanese Army-held land, but a war-torn country, displacement and, of course, deaths in the tens of thousands reported. How significant could this be for the people of Sudan?
Actually, what is significant for the people of Sudan is to put an end to this war. But this is against the SAF will. The SAF always, as I said in the beginning of the interview, they spoiled all peace platforms. Why? Because they erupted the war to bring back the Muslim Brotherhood and dissolve NCP to power again. And this is what will not be accepted by any Sudanese, and not even by the RSF or by Tasis, but all Sudanese. They get out in December 2018 against the dissolved NCP. Right now we are in Al-Fasher. After liberation of Al-Fasher, we just came from a displaced camp where we deliver the humanitarian aid, like 3 trucks of humanitarian aid of flour, sugar, oil, sesame, salt, many things we delivered right now. We are going back. I think people is happy right now after the liberation of El-Fasher, and whenever the SAF and the military intelligence is out of area, people are feeling safe. Why? Because the SAF usually used to ignite war between tribes. They used to arm tribes against other tribes. What is contemplating ethnic cleansing actually is the SAF. The SAF, or the Sudanese Armed Forces, since 1956, it didn't work with Sudanese people. It always initiating war against Sudanese.
Aladdin, thank you ever so much for your time and for joining us.
Thank you.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point.
Well, we've got all 3 just for you. This is Firstpost Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.